And once again, thank you for joining us. Today we will be talking about real-time data in the out-of-home industry, specifically for large formats and sites focused on vehicular traffic. All right, let's go ahead and get started today, everyone. Once again, my name is Michael Neal. Today I'll also be joined by Isabella Mangalo, who is our brand manager. I'm the head of marketing and sales, and today we'll be talking about large format measurement with our vehicle detection solution. And I hope that this can be a more open discussion. We definitely would like to have questions. You can either tweet at us, you can message us on LinkedIn, or you can even message us right here in the GoToWebinar software. Periodically, we'll take a few minutes to answer any of these questions that come up, and we hope to see a lot because we'd like to have a more open and open format and more of a discussion. So first, we want to start with a few basic facts about out-of-home. And basically, out-of-home, as we all know it, is everywhere. It's in big cities. It's in the smallest of towns. It's on highways. It's everywhere, right? And what we're finding by building these different technology solutions is that depending on the site, depending on the type of format, it can be sometimes hard to measure or really quantify the maximum value of out-of-home. And I believe, and we believe here at AdMobilize, that the out-of-home medium for advertising is an extremely valuable one, and one that is ripe for adding new technologies to make it that much better. And we here at AdMobilize are building solutions and products to make it that much better. So our goal really is to collaborate with the out-of-home industry in a way that elevates everyone in the industry as a whole. So that includes all major players, operators, advertisers, agencies, etc. We hope to work with all sorts of different parties to figure out the best way to deploy our solutions. And we're currently deploying globally right now. So the question really of the day is how? How can we really do that? And today what I'm mostly focusing on is how we can do that for large format roadside billboards to measure the vehicle traffic that passes by these billboards every single day. And in the U.S. and globally, there are hundreds of millions of people commuting to work every day, driving from point A to point B, and there are many opportunities for these drivers and these people to view and consume advertisements on these billboards. The major question is, how do you really quantify that? And today I hope to give an overview of our solution for that. And first we will start with an introduction of AdMobilize and what we're doing as a company overall. So AdMobilize is really a hardware software platform that connects many different parties, developers, consumers, businesses, to design, build, and deploy applications for the physical world. In this conversation today, we'll be focusing on the solutions that we're building for out-of-home using computer vision. And over the last year and a half, we've been lucky enough to receive some press based on the solutions that we have been deploying out into the markets globally. And most of that has been focused on what we're doing for out-of-home in general. AdMobilize as a technology company, our main goal is really to make it very easy and seamless to deploy our solutions in many different ways. First, we have our ad beacon hardware, which is used mostly for street level activations. and can be used in almost any physical location, retail store, mall, outdoor bus shelter, etc., to easily start collecting data and quantifying the activity that is happening in that particular area. Our AdBeacon API is a pure software solution, and what I'll be talking about mostly today is that we can use any off-the-shelf IP or network or CCTV camera to also collect this data. And last but not least, we have our AdBeacon SDK, which can be used as a drop-in solution for manufacturers, for agencies, etc., to combine our solutions with their hardware and software. So now to go on to the topic for today. Today we're using computer vision to measure and track vehicles. And really computer vision to us is all about creating solutions that can be used on many different types of hardware and with many different types of software. Going back to that main point of using any off-the-shelf camera to actually collect this data and then analyze it with our algorithms and apps and actually display this data on a cloud-based dashboard that's really easy to understand. In this section, I'll be going through some high-level computer science and computer vision that actually allows us to count vehicles and do other very cool things to create a measurement system for this large format. So the question here is, how do you actually detect vehicles? And in the next few slides, I'll be going over just how we do that at a very high level. So the basics of our vehicle detection solution are as follows. We create object training and use motion detection to actually collect the data from a camera. We can set up zones so that if you're on a multi-lane highway, if you're in an urban area with traffic coming from multiple directions, we can actually set up zones that can be used to track where that activity is coming from, which makes it a lot easier to organize and actually implement the solution once we have the hardware up on the sites. Last, we use algorithms to take the data that we collect and turn it into meaningful data. And we use various algorithms from to determine, just counting a car, to measuring the average speed of a car, to even changing certain scripts that allow us to count both during the day and at night. So our solution really covers a 24/7 spectrum of time in terms of collecting data, where if you were to implement this on a billboard, we could tell you any time of day, any day of week, how many cars were going past it at that moment, and also during that hour, day, week, etc. And all of this combines to create a product that allows any user that has access to a particular account to access these real-time vehicle analytics on a nice, clean, cloud-based dashboard that's really easy to understand and derive meaning from. Now we'll take a quick pause to see if there's any questions so far, and if not, we'll keep rolling. Okay, so we'll keep moving right along here. So the good news is that, like I said before, we can use any off-the-shelf IP camera that meets basic specifications. And as we engage with companies, we actually share what these specifications are, and we've used several different types of cameras. Some of the more popular companies that we use are companies like Mobotics, Vivotech, Axis, but there are dozens, if not hundreds, of camera providers that can be used depending on the type of site, area of the world, etc., that can be very effective to collect the data about vehicles that we can use for the analytics, metrics, to actually create a measurement system for vehicle traffic passing by roadside billboards. And to do this, to actually implement the solution, it's very easy for us to do that. And part of it is connecting the camera to the dashboard. And one of the biggest questions that we always get is, well, we can very easily place a camera up on the billboard. Today, most digital billboards have cameras on site, most of them facing towards the billboard for proof of play and other uses. But if you think about taking that camera and simply turning it around to the point where you can have a great field of view of the highway where the viewers and traffic are passing by, the setup is similar. So we have two basic options for setup. One is based on if the particular site has a cellular connection from, let's say here in the US, someone like an AT&T or Verizon that's on a monthly gigabyte plan, maybe 2 to 5 to 10 gigabytes. We can simply, on a digital board, connect the camera to the PC or operating system that is used on the board, place an app on that system to actually run the algorithms that collect the data, and then deliver that raw data to the cloud, so that to the cloud-based dashboard actually, so that not a lot of data in terms of cellular connectivity is actually consumed, not a lot of bandwidth is consumed during that month. For options that have a direct connection that don't run necessarily on a cellular month-to-month plan, the process is similar, and you can do all of this from the dashboard actually, as you see here on the right.
Mike, we actually have a question.
Okay.
So the question is, what is the requirement for connectivity and bandwidth?
So far what we've seen with relatively high traffic is the requirements are no more than about 2 gigabytes per month with the app installed on a PC on site. And that's we would say the minimum to be provided per site to run the software 24/7, having it gather that data and deliver that to the dashboard, so that you can have a very clear view in total count per day, per hour, per month, whatever it is, of the traffic passing by that particular site. Are there any more questions?
I see some coming in, but let's just keep moving and I'll let you know.
Okay, great. So the second option, like I was saying, is having the camera up on the board, taking a URL that is used to actually view the stream of the camera, what's called an RTSP stream, adding that to the dashboard like you see here on the right, selecting the vehicle analytics option in terms of what kind of metrics you'd like to see, and via the dashboard we actually allow any user to draw their own zones and add their own zones to the device or to the site based on the field of view. And as I go more into real-world examples of how this solution is being implemented, you'll really see what I mean about drawing the zones and how they differ based on each site in the angle, field of view, position, etc. So both of these options are very easy for us to deploy and install and help any company really deploy the solution on any roadside digital billboard site.
We have another question here, but before we move on to that question, I just want to let our attendees know that the way that you can ask a question is by going to your GoToWebinar control panel that's right on the right-hand side of your screen, and you'll see there a tab for questions. You can enter your question there and send it to us. Now, the question that I have in the queue here is, in case of lack of cellular connectivity, what are the options?
Yeah, so if connectivity is lost for whatever reason, we actually have, as part of our solution, the ability to store that data locally, and once connection is back online, actually populate that data into the dashboard or into the database, so that we never really lose any data. And that way, the solution is much more reliable, much more consistent, to the point where if you were to lose connection for a few hours, once the connection came back, we would actually start repopulating those few hours, so that during that day, the total count would reflect those few hours as well.
Okay, and We've got a follow-up question here. Can the zones be managed by the user?
Yes. So upon actually creating a new device on the dashboard, we allow you to access the stream from the camera itself and through our dashboard, sort of like you hear or see here on the slide. We allow you to add that device, and once you add the device, you'll be able to see the stream from the camera and draw out those zones using your mouse, basically. And I'll go through a few examples of the different kinds of zones that are being drawn depending on the various environment and scenario.
Alrighty, we've got one more question, Mike. And the question is, can we, as the billboard owner, use the auto data we derive from this service with you, then sell the data to third parties like local government, aka local DOTs?
Yeah, so using the data that's collected and selling it to third parties is going to be a very interesting business model for any party that actually deploys and owns the solution, right? And we believe that actually to those that we deploy it, the data that's collected, either if you're the operator, you own the billboard, you own the site, whatever, should be shareable from the operator, right? And that data should be yours to do with whatever you want, such as using it for measurement or like the question asked, using it for kind of third-party applications. And we believe there are a lot of use cases for that as well, depending on the location and who that third party may be. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll keep rolling here. So this is a view of our dashboard. Very simple right now for vehicle. We collect vehicle count. We also show an average speed. We show you the total vehicles based on the last timestamp. And we also show you each detection that comes in based on the zone as well. In addition to being able to add the device, being able to see all devices at once, being able to see each single site or device and the activity that's associated with it. And with our dashboard now, we actually allow you to view both aggregated and real-time data from each of these sites. So we allow you to toggle between just seeing real-time data points coming in on the dashboard, which is very useful for demos, presentations, etc. But we also allow you to, or any user that you give access to actually break down the data by hour, by day, by week, by month, by year, etc., depending on the time filter selected. So, for instance, if I were to select, let's say, yesterday on the date filter and filtered for, let's say, by the hour, I would see data for every hour of yesterday. And if I were to filter for the last month and select the day breakdown, I would see data from the last month for each day as a total. So we make it pretty easy to actually toggle between all of those different things so that it's easy to demo, easy to display, demonstrate, and actually organize and derive meaning and value from this data, whether you're using it for measurement, third-party applications, etc. So now we'd like to give a few example use cases. So for digital roadside, that is really our main focus right now. It's the easiest implementation method, and although it is a smaller portion of the overall billboard site market, it's also one of the more lucrative and one of the types of sites and formats that actually can use a lot of different technology because of the type of infrastructure that each board has, ranging from how much power it can draw, having the option for connectivity, and having a PC on board also.
Mike, we've got a question here on the data. How long does the data stay on the dashboard? How far can I go back?
So right now you can go back indefinitely, and as we continue to build out networks and and gain more customers, we will allow those customers to, or we do currently allow customers to export that data at any point in time. But right now we're keeping most data indefinitely in a way that can be accessed for as far back as a year or two.
Thank you.
Great. So now I want to go over a few examples of different ways that you can implement the solution based on the type of site. So this would be an example of an overhead highway site, maybe a little less common, but this particular image provides a great demo of the zones and how each vehicle is actually detected and identified as a vehicle. So as you can see here on top, we have vehicle count, average speed, and this particular image also shows each vehicle that was counted as it passes by. And when it passes by this black line, that's when it's counted, but it's actually tracked before it passes the line 10, 20, 50 feet back as it approaches the line. Once it passes that line or the detection zone, it actually becomes a count, and the speed is actually recorded right then and there as well. We can also
Question just came in, Mike, regarding the different types of vehicles. Will you be able to identify types of vehicles, i.e. trucks, buses, and cars?
Yes, so currently we are focusing mostly on vehicle count and average speed, and then organizing that data in very meaningful ways, things like peak times, being able to export it, etc. But in the near future, we will also be experimenting with and potentially deploying solutions and features for identifying types of cars, whether it is a bus, truck, small car, etc., which we believe that type of data will be useful down the road as well. But the most important thing that we wanted to deploy first and get really right was being able to count these vehicles day and night in high or low traffic periods, no matter how fast they're going.
Thank you.
Great. So another kind of point of view or angle that we can deploy the solution on for roadside highway is measuring multiple lanes of traffic from a side view angle. And in this particular example, we are measuring vehicles at night. It's a well-lit highway, but we have the detection zone here in the bottom right. And as cars are passing by, we are tracking them, just like in the previous example. And we've gotten to the point where we can track cars that pass the detection zone, even if they're passing near or at the same time. And in the near future as well, we will be able to use the same camera stream to actually detect cars on the other side of the highway, on the very, very far side, going the other way, going the other direction, right? So in the near future, we will be able to not only get the nearer lanes, or let's say if this is eastbound, we'll be able to collect data and set up zones for westbound as well in a way that's super accurate and super reliable. Another type is one such as a urban cityscape, being able to measure traffic coming from multiple directions, and let's say an intersection. And this is a view from actually outside of our office, where it's a four-way street, cars coming from multiple directions. And by setting up different zones, you see right now you'll see 3, and by naming them appropriately, you can actually track direction and how many cars actually went past those various zones on those various streets, which for maybe more specialized formats in big cities where there's a lot of tall buildings and such, and a lot of different roads intersecting, this becomes very useful. And this is from about a height of a standard billboard, right? So this becomes very useful in that particular environment and scenario. The second example, in more of a cityscape, not necessarily a major highway, but kind of a lower level example in terms of height of the board, we can measure oncoming traffic in 2 lanes while also measuring traffic going the other way. So in this example, we have two detection zones, one going south to north, one going north to south, but it's actually measuring 3 different roads of traffic at once. And this would be around dusk. So we can utilize 2, possibly 3 detection zones in this one stream to count vehicles on these various roads, which becomes very useful in a scenario like this, where the board may be a bit lower. It may be in a bit more of a crowded section of a highway or city, and allows you to count and gather data from vehicles even passing by these types of sites. So that becomes very useful in this scenario as well. And to kind of sum up what we talked about here today, the main benefits are that for operators, it allows them to quantify their entire digital portfolio and, like the question before was asking, control their own data, right? And use it for, obviously measurement, which would be a big draw and a big value, but also use it for potentially third-party applications. It also provides their sales with real-time data to show current and future advertisers the true value of these out-of-home sites and billboard sites. For agencies, that allows them to broaden strategy for creative digital campaigns using this real-time data, especially for digital roadside. It allows them to create different campaigns for different types of traffic, different volumes of traffic, different times of day, etc., based on the data that's given and collected, and also allows them to confidently recommend sites for clients based on real-time vehicle traffic data, and allows them to give their clients actionable, accurate, reliable impressions based on the number of cars that pass by each and every day. And for the brands, it allows them to more easily justify out-of-home spend and create an ROI for each campaign, and also verify placement of campaign buys based on the metrics and data given from the billboard sites themselves. So we believe that this technology is really going to make it very easy for out-of-home and each different player and layer of out-of-home to actually do business. And that's kind of the main value we bring with the solution, not only the easy deployment, but also the huge value that it brings to their core business. And basically, we believe that the technology that we're building, vehicle and other solutions, will actually enhance the relationship between all these different types of players in the industry: operators, brands, agencies, etc., even cities, because we believe that the data that's collected and the way that we aggregate, display, and even provide in real time has enormous value in many different applications that have yet to be explored, even beyond measurement. But we believe for measurement, it's a true game changer. And one more time, we'll check if there's any outstanding questions that we'd like to address before we conclude this webinar. But if not, we'd love to request a meeting and speak to some of the attendees of this webinar one-on-one to gather feedback and also talk about the solutions that we can deploy for their particular business and how we can potentially work together. We're always looking to work with different types of companies for various applications, and we welcome those conversations.
So it looks like we're all set with questions. If anyone has any question right now, feel free to ask just by going on the control panel and clicking on the questions section and just typing it up for me. But we have a lot more of these coming up, so feel free to invite other leaders to join for our webinars. Great, and
like Isabella said, we have a few more parts in the series coming up, leading up to the TAB OAAA conference here in Boca Raton in South Florida. Our next webinar, part 3, will be about computer vision and out-of-home, focusing on street-level formats and how that can be applied to those formats and used by the different players in the industry.
Awesome.
And that's it for today. I hope everyone enjoyed the discussion around vehicle traffic and data collection for large format roadside sites. Like Isabella said, if you have any more questions or would like to discuss the solution more in depth, please email me at the email below. And for the next webinar, we'd love to have you on again, and also more leaders, colleagues, and friends to join in on the conversation. So thank you everyone for your time, and we'll make this recording available and also the previous one available online via YouTube and also on LinkedIn. So we enjoyed having you today, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.